Laptop computer spins onto the screen, opens, and displays ATP Education Program webinar series, closes, and then spins off the screen.
Hi, my name is Beth, and this is Early Childhood Mathematics, Developing Foundational Skills. And we're getting ready to start Session 3. For Session 3, we will be discussing number sense and counting. This image right here. What skills are learners developing in this image? You might be thinking cooperation, play, counting, identifying objects, sorting, and you'd be correct. As we know, children who are young learners develop best through play. Our learning outcomes today are the following. As participants, you will be able to describe the 4 phases of counting, provide 3 resources for addressing number sense skills for learners with disabilities, and discuss 3 strategies that families, caregivers, and educators can use to develop number sense in early learners. Possession of number sense is indicative of mathematical success in later years, according to Denton and West and the National Math Advisory Panel. One of the top reasons students fail to develop early numeracy skills is a lack of experience or exposure. So let's take a look at some of the big ideas around number sense and counting. Big idea number 1. Quantity is an attribute of a set of objects, and we use numbers to name specific quantities. The number of items exists for young learners as an adjective to describe objects in a collection. So for example, there are blue eggs, there are round eggs, or oval eggs, and there are 4 eggs. Or in this picture, there are 3 cows, or there are 2 brown cows and 1 black cow, or there are cows. Or, in my favorite picture, there are 2 donuts, or there are sprinkled donuts, or there are pink donuts. These are all adjectives that are describing what they're seeing. In this sense of numerosity, counting is the relationship between numbers and quantity. Young learners need repeated opportunities to connect number words and numerals with the set of objects they describe, and this is critical in developing number sense. Rather than focusing on a number as a noun on its own, for example, that is 4 that we see right here, we seek to provide opportunities in many contexts to use numbers as an adjective to describe objects, such as there are 4 children here. The next big idea that we want to consider is that the quantity of a small collection can be intuitively perceived without counting, otherwise known as subitizing. Subitizing is the innate or born with ability to perceive a quantity without counting. And this is something that very, very young infants can do. Early on, infants in studies have shown to be able to perceive which bottle of milk has more when given a choice of 2 bottles. They'll reach for the one with more. And crows can perceive which pile of things has more items in it and will gravitate towards the pile that has more items. This earlier level of subitizing is also known as perceptual subitizing, and that's when you're able to recognize 3 or less without having to count. Then conceptual subitizing is where learners can put together small quantities without counting. So knowing that the 1 dice and the 4 dice together would make 5 and not having to count. Dice are a great way for learners to work on subitizing. And there's some simple adaptations that we can make with dice to make them much more accessible for our young learners with physical needs. The first way is to simply put your dice in small Tupperware containers. This might make it more accessible for an individual to be able to hold and drop the dice. And it has the added bonus of dice not rolling all over the table and rolling all over the floor. So learners can be able to quickly and easily see how the dice has fallen and identify those numerals. There's also switch accessible dice like the one pictured here, and with those Typically, you can easily pick up that dome lid and set the number of dice that you want to have to be switch activated. In addition, there's a number of different tools that you can use for virtual dice throwing. So let's take a look at one. The Play Tools and Lesson Picks is one way that you can have virtual dice. You can choose whether you want numbers or dots, and for subitizing, we definitely want dots, and how many dice that you want to pick. Let's just pick one for right now. Learners can easily roll those dice and identify the number of dots on that dice visually in order to determine the number on there. Dominos are another great way for young learners to engage in playful exploration of subitizing. With simple created cards like these, learners can explore number organization from 1 to 5 with visual displays. For some real challenge, as is pictured here, ask learners to identify it across pictures. So 5 fingers on a hand, 5 dots, 5 on a die, 5 ducks. Can they match those up? Another big idea is that we count to find out how many are in a collection, and that counting has rules that apply to any collection. Let's take a look at exactly what those rules are. The first rule of counting, or phase 1, is called stable order. And in stable order, counting words, or those numbers, are always in the same order. So if I was to count this collection of red vehicles, I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The number before the number you named is always one less, and the number after is always one more. Phase 2 is one-to-one correspondence, and this is often what early childhood educators tend to focus on most often, where one number is noted for each object counted. Common errors with one-to-one correspondence is that learners will tag each item but say the number's wrong. So 1, 3, 4, 5. Or they'll miss tagging an item. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or they'll double tag an item. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's important is that we go simply beyond one-to-one correspondence and don't just stick or end our math instruction when learners have established one-to-one correspondence. Following one-to-one correspondence is the concept of order irrelevance. And that's where it doesn't matter where you start counting, the results are the same. So whether I start at the top here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Or I start at the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It doesn't matter. Rearranging the items does not affect the total. Now, as we get more sophisticated in our understanding of order or relevance, we can mark items or move items to help us keep track of them. So we might move items from one location to another as we're counting, moving like our M&Ms from one hand to the next, right? 1, 2, 3, etc. Phase 4 of counting is cardinality. And cardinality boils down to that the number you end on when you're counting is the number of items in the set. That last number, 13, is the cardinal number. Now, some of the ways that we know that learners have developed cardinality is that they are able to count on or count back, so that if we were to say 1, 2, 3, 4 and stop and say, should we keep going or not, that they would be able to go, yes, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we could say, oh, if I take one away, that they'd be able to know, well, now we're back to 7. Learners who have primarily focused on the recitation of the number sequence may not have the experience to develop cardinality, which is why it's so important to go beyond simply stable order, or rote counting, and one-to-one correspondence. There are so many books out there that allow us to explore counting as we're reading to young learners. So let's just take a look at a couple. This one from Unite for Literacy is one of my favorites. And as I explained in our previous sessions, Unite for Literacy is a fabulous resource as it provides narration in both English and offers it in other languages as well. For example, in this one, it offers it in Bob as an alternative language. This is fabulous for parents who may have limited literacy in their own home language to be able to read along with their children. So let's take a look at Violet Counts Cookies. Hi, Violet, would you like to count for me? I can count one cookie. May I eat it? Not yet, Violet. How many are there now? Two cookies. May I eat one? So obviously with this we are working on that one-to-one correspondence. We are working on that stable order, and we're also working on cardinality. Not yet, Violet. You count very well. How many are there now? On Epic, that explores fun, crayon colors, is another great one to work on counting. So let's take a peek. The Crayola Counting Book by Mary Shute. Counting fun. So many crayons, so many colors. How many crayons do you see? Let's count. Now this is a fabulous one for working on that order irrelevance, because we could start counting anywhere with these crayons. I could start counting with this purple one down here and go clockwise. I could go counterclockwise. I could decide I was going to count all the ones in the center and then go out in my concentric circles. There's so many different ways that I can count this. Again, it stresses that counting with one-to-one correspondence. Let's count them one at a time, starting with the red crayon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it has those color associations with them as well. This goes a little further and talks about counting backward and counting and sorting at the same time. So sorting those sets by colors and making determinations of how many are in that set of green crayons. Let's not forget how important sound and movement are for our young learners. We can engage learners in tapping out a number, marching to a drum beat, the number of steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, listening to the number of claps or notes played, counting how many steps, hops, jumps to the sink, putting out napkins, cups, and placemats for the number of students in the classroom, or even better, for families to do this with their children at home, taking attendance by counting the number of children, and start at different locations to work on that order irrelevance. In addition, musical chairs or other objects. It doesn't have to just be chairs. You can have musical dots so that we can include our learners who are in alternative seating like wheelchairs. A key idea in counting is to be able to highlight patterns, especially those friendly numbers of 5 and 10. They're considered friendly numbers because they're easy to remember, and they're benchmarks in our number system. We have 5 fingers on each hand, 10 toes all together, and we can use 5 frames and 10 frames to help learners develop early addition skills. It helps them understand the consistency of that when we have all of these 5 filled, that there's still 5 more that we could go in a 10 frame. And that 5 can be expressed with these 3 here and these 2 here, although it's easily visually perceptible to see when we have 5 all together. Or that when we have 5 in one row and 3 in our next, that there's 2 more needed in order to complete our 10 frame. Virtual 10-frame activities are available on the mathlearningcenter.org and other virtual manipulative websites. we can go in and select our frame, using either a 5 or a 10 frame, 20 frames or hundreds, but for young children it's best to work on 5 or 10 frames. So if I want to drag my 10 frame over there, my 5 frame over there, and then I can make decisions about how I'm going to fill that frame, right? If I'm going to fill them one at a time, if I'm going to fill it one at a time, or if I choose to select 5 and how that's going to go across for me. I can easily change. Let's get another frame out here. I can easily change the shapes that I'm using from circles to different counters. So I can do something seasonal, like ladybugs or butterflies, and I can easily change the colors in order to create contrasts. And be able to count with my frames. 4, 5, and see that the 5 that I have here is equivalent to the 5 that I have here. In early childhood classrooms, there's often a large emphasis on our morning meeting or our calendar time. However, it's important to note that calendar numbers are not really conducive to children's number sense and counting skills. For example, a week is ordered in 7s, which is not a friendly number like 5 or 10. And a month might have 28, 29, 30, or 31 days before you start over. So that lack of consistency can be really confusing to some learners. So some beneficial concepts to focus on in calendar time are the growing pattern of numbers on a calendar, that +1, and creating a chain or other visual representation of the increase in numbers as we're moving from 1 until the end of the month. Oftentimes, a linear calendar marked from 1 to 31, or 1 to 30, or 1 to 29, or 1 to 28 can be the most useful way, and so this is an example of that here. Another way that we can work on that idea of one more and also one less is with the use of Rekenreks or number racks. Now, we can certainly have physical number racks, and I'm going to show you an example of a really accessible one, but let's go ahead and take a look at a digital number rack. Number racks or Rekenreks provide an easy visual representation of those friendly numbers of 5 and 10. And I can know visually that by looking that this is automatically, the set of beads here is automatically going to be 5 beads. And if I pull them over from right to left, that I've got 5 there. And that I can easily count on with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that if I divide those in half, that I'm going to have 5 on this side and 5 on that side. So it provides a really smooth, easy visual representation for learners to be able to understand those concepts of one more and one less. Here's an example of a do-it-yourself Rekenrek that is perfect for learners who need to stand while they're working, or for learners who may be in a wheelchair and want to be able to wheel up to their number rack. So this is made with PVC pipe and cut up pool noodles, and the directions will be linked in the resources that you'll be provided to go along with this resource. I emphasize always how I love to make learning life-sized, and with a little bit of painter's tape and our children or perhaps their stuffed animals, it's really easy to do that. So whether we are laying out our number racks on the floor for learners to count stuffed animals, for learners to stand in or wheel in themselves, or creating them on our tabletops, this is a way to really bring those ideas of 5 and 10 to life. So as we close out this session 3 and our entire series on early childhood mathematics, I want to show you one of my favorite apps to use with early childhood learners, Drawing Pad. Now, everything that I'm going to show you with Drawing Pad today, to talk about number sense and counting, to talk a little bit about sorting and patterns, you can completely do low-tech with stickers and other learning materials as well. So we get started in Drawing Pad with a completely blank slate and lots of wonderful tools. And let's head over to our stickers, where I'm going to go ahead and use, well, we've got all sorts of fun stickers that we can use. I'm going to go ahead and use these fun aquatic themed images there. So I can add my froggy. I can make him smaller. I can add more frogs. 1, 2, 3. So obviously I can get into all sorts of fun counting activities. I can also start adding images other than that, just simple frog, right? So we could get a jellyfish in there, and I could get 2 jellyfish. We can count how many there are all together. I can mix these up and see if I can make a pattern with them, right? So I could do frog, jellyfish, frog, jellyfish, frog. And what do I need next, right? I've got my jellyfish, so I've got my fun pattern there. I can sort these into sets, and I can put all of my jellyfish together, this collection, into sets and sort them, put all of my jellyfish together, decide what is the rule that I have going on here, and maybe that it's green versus yellow, and is there something else I could add? And so I could add some more yellow items to this, or some more green items to this. So I just love the flexibility of being able to utilize a tool like this with learners who may have some fine motor needs that impact their ability to use other more traditional low-tech materials as easily. This is also fabulous if you are working with learners in a virtual environment, or if families are looking for more authentic ways to be able to occupy their learners with a digital device rather than simply going on drill and practice types of apps. So something super open-ended like this, where they can end with a product that they have to keep, is wonderful. So I will leave everybody on this note, thinking about how you might use resources that you have already and resources that you might want to get a hold of in your work with early learners in early childhood mathematics. Thank you so much for joining me. And remember, math is everywhere for our learners to be able to experience.
Thank you for watching. For more information on the ATP education program, please visit our website at atp.nebraska.gov/education or email us at atp.education@nebraska.gov.